Alright YouTube, let's talk about life jackets. There's a big debate if you're a kayaker, essentially, whether you should wear a life jacket, whether you should wear a PFD. I prefer a life jacket with some caveats. What I don't use on my life jacket while I'm kayaking is this. This is an automatic trigger. This screws onto the trigger mechanism for my life jacket, and if you fall in the water and you get positive water flow up through that valve, that pops, the green cap will vanish, you'll lose that, and your life jacket will go off. Now I don't want my life jacket to go off instantly if I fall overboard, because it'll stop me self-rescuing, so I cap it off with this. That unscrews, that screws on. Dead easy. Stops water ingress, stops salt and things getting up into the trigger. The reason I wear a life jacket and I don't wear a PFD, now there's swings and roundabouts. A PFD does not require anything like the maintenance that a life jacket requires, but a PFD will not save your life. If you are separated from your kayak, which can and does happen, and you're floating in the sea and you are wearing a PFD and you do not have an EPIRB and you cannot keep yourself afloat, you are going to die. It is essentially that simple. This thing will keep me afloat long enough for me to push the DSC summon a helicopter button on my marine VHF, and hopefully someone will come and get me. I'm going to service this life jacket in a minute, and I'm going to show you the steps I go through to service it. It's something that people who wear them probably don't do as often as they should. I haven't done it in over a year. This life jacket has been on a shipping container from England to New Zealand, and I can't control the conditions it's been under, so I'm going to service it. Before I do that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the stuff that comes along with my life jacket. First and foremost, I think people don't realise how important this is. This is a Moroniv safety knife that is carbon steel. I personally have sliced through steel core 2-inch thick anchor rope with this knife. There is a reason that I have that on my life jacket. It's because if I capsize, I've got lots of lines overboard, I've got an anchor line overboard, I've got fishing lines overboard. If I get wrapped in my lines, I'm not fucking around. I'm going to draw that knife, I'm going to cut through all those lines so that they can't drown me. Always have a safety knife on your life jacket, or have one on you somewhere. I have it on my life jacket so I can't forget it, because I won't launch without my life jacket. The other thing that does not come as standard on a life jacket is one of these. This is a strobe light. This is a water sensor for a strobe light. Now, these are sealed units. You can't service them. When the battery's dead, it's dead. But they are incredibly bright. So this goes, and I'll show you in a minute, this bit goes around the back of the neck on the life jacket, where it goes through the loop. That sits on the chest of the life jacket. The life jacket will tend to put you onto your back in the water, and then it will do that. And you probably can't see how bright that is, but that is highly visible. This is a Crewsaver one. The one that's on my life jacket was actually a UML one. UML actually make the triggers for Crewsavers. Effectively, they're the same thing. So in my rearming kit, I have got an appropriately sized bottle of CO2. Check your life jacket before you do this. Look up what the flotation your life jacket is supposed to have, and that will tell you what size of CO2 bottle you need to get. This is a 33 gram, which I need for my life jacket. You'll also find, you'll also find these little green plastic caps, and you can use them or not, it doesn't really matter. And a little O-ring in there. I tend to use a little blob of silicone grease on that just so it doesn't kink. And these don't come as standard because they're expensive, but they do have a sell-by date on these automatic triggers. So I've got about a year left in this one, year and a half. The reason they have a sell-by date is because they're triggered by compressed paper. Now, contrary to myth, they cannot be triggered by damp, by being left in cold, damp conditions. You do have to have positive water flow through them for them to go off, and I've been in a position where I've had one go off. So, you know, I can confirm that is the case. They don't instantly go off as you hit the water. So without further ado, I'm going to service this life jacket. Step 1. You don't really have to do this, but how many times do you get a chance to, really? And there you go. This is why we service life jackets. That's the life jacket on off. It's holding its gas. That's fine. Word of warning, when you do it this way, you have to let the gas out of the life jacket afterwards, and it is pure CO2. Do not attempt to breathe it in. It won't do you any good. So the anatomy of an deployed life jacket. Okay, so here we have my UML strobe light. As I said, that is clipped on there. The water sensor comes around to a loop in here. So when I am on my back in the water, the water sensor will be flashing away. It's got reflective strips. I added a couple more reflective strips to mine because why not? Although do be careful that your the glue you use, the adhesive it uses, won't degrade the nylon. You will have a wee little whistle for all the bloody good that's going to do you. If you haven't got a radio, I'm not sure what the hell point of the whistle is, but it's there. And you have a little air tube here that you can take the cap off and you can put more air into it. It's also how you let air out when you want to deflate the thing. The trigger mechanism in the gas bottle is here. My God, look at how corroded that is. So you will see this is triggered now because that is a little window, the top one. That's red. That means the bottle's empty. The bottom window is for, it goes on when I've got an automatic trigger on there. I actually took the automatic trigger off before I started because I didn't want to damage it by gassing off the life jacket, but it would have been fine probably, but why risk it? So I'm going to let the gas out of this and then I'll come back. One deflated life jacket. So I should point out the reason that did not unfold properly, did not go off properly, is because it wasn't folded properly. I've had a look, and that's on me. The last time I did this, I didn't fold it correctly. Now, that's a cautionary tale. The reality is, don't do this if you're not comfortable with it. Obviously, it's a fairly easy issue to resolve, as you saw. But if you don't know how to fold a life jacket on a Crewsaver, you are going to find step-by-step instructions inside the cover of the life jacket. So follow them carefully. If you're not confident, get a professional to do it, get someone else to do it. That's fine. Now, I like to test all parts of my life jacket when it's open, and that includes the strobe light. So I'm going to take a glass of water, and I'm going to take the water sensor and I'm going to plonk it in, and there we go. Problem is, it'll keep going off now because the sensor's wet, but that's okay. I can turn it off like that, and there it is off. That's fine. That's the light reset. Good as gold. Now, depending on the brand of your life jacket and who made the trigger and which model of trigger you have, in a Crewsaver it'll always be UML. This is the manual trigger. It isn't always on the inside, sometimes it's on the outside. I don't know what the thinking is or the reasoning is behind that, but there it is. With this one, there is no tag here. On some life jackets, you will find there's little tags that hold one of these two jobbies, and the idea is that it's an indication of if you've popped the life jacket, because that tag will fly off. On this one, it's a bit unnecessary. As you can see, that window has turned red because the gas bottle is empty, and you will see when I screw a full one on that window will go green. And I will demonstrate this now. So as I try and do this left-handed, so please forgive the cack-handedness of it. As I screw my new gas bottle in, green indicator is showing, and you see there's a little window on my life jacket that should line up with. See, and that will show a green indicator. That will say I have got a full gas bottle on. Now, should I want to also have my automatic trigger on, similarly, you will see as I screw the auto trigger on, the little indication also goes green. Now, that's important If the automatic inflator has gone off, that window will stay red. Even if you've got the automatic trigger on, that window will still say red if the automatic trigger is no good. Similarly, that little green cap will be gone and it'll be just a little red disc underneath. The next thing to do is to reset the zip. And now this is important and people forget this bit. You have to zip the life jacket up from this side. But obviously, when you finish zipping it, the zipper fly finishes over here. So you have to undo that, pop that out, bring the zipper fly all the way back around to there, and then so it's in the right place. If you forget that, it's extremely frustrating because you then have to undo all your folding and do it all again, and it pisses you off. There you are. There is step one, zipper fly started. Now I'm going to fold this. I'm going to follow the instructions and do it the way the instructions say to do it. And it's a pain in the arse because I haven't got anyone here to video me doing it. So I'm afraid you're just going to have to take my word for the fact that I'm going to fold this properly. When you come to do it yourself, as I say, follow these instructions. They're all numbered. So you know what order to do it in. Follow the instructions, get it right. Otherwise you'll do what I just did and have a life jacket that only half goes off, and that's a bit embarrassing when you're making a video about servicing life jackets. There it is, done. The last thing to do when you finish folding it back up is you tuck the ends of your zips up into the cavities and make sure, very carefully, because you don't want to set the damn thing off again, that this toggle is accessible. It's very easy to accidentally fold that up inside the life jacket, but that should be, you don't know if you can see the cord inside that window, but that should just be a straight run down. There shouldn't be any hanging on anything. That should be there, so when you pull it, that life jacket goes off. That's it, done. One last thing to note on the safety knife issue. This isn't actually my safety knife, this is another one I've got that's exactly the same. This is for wood carving, carving hardwoods, just to give you an idea of how sharp these things are. The one on my my life jacket, is extremely sharp. It's also sheathed in grease, so I have coated the whole blade in marine grease, and that goes in the scabbard covered in marine grease, because once you get rust into these things and once they start pitting, they're very hard to rescue, and you don't want to discover at the point that you need to use it that the damn thing's dull and rusty. So safety knives, keep them greased. Do not use them for anything else. You should have a bait knife, you should have a filleting knife, you shouldn't be using your safety knife for other things. It is there as a contingency. That's my advice anyway, that's my 2 cents. It's a piece of equipment that you should not be on your kayak without. For me, you know, including the life jacket in that, which is why it's clipped to my life jacket. There's just things you don't launch if you don't have with you. For me, that includes life jacket, safety knife, VHF radio. My VHF radio that I use, I actually have 2, but the one I use has digital selective calling, DSC. That means there's a button on the back of it, and if I push that button, it sends a distress call out to rescue services, and it sends out my exact GPS location. A friend of mine, and I'll find his video and link it, has had occasion to use his DSC button. He has exactly the same handset that I've got. He capsized, he went overboard, he was still with his kayak, but he couldn't self-rescue. So he was floating in the sea in his dry suit. He had a PFD, not a life jacket. Managed to hold onto the kayak, but he couldn't get back aboard, and he pushed his DSC button. Now in the meantime, the tide actually took him onto the beach, so he could have got away with it, but he was very hypothermic by the time he landed. This was in England, so a Royal Air Force Sea King rescue helicopter was overhead of him within 10 minutes of him pushing that button. You will not believe the speed that those rescue services can get to you. It sticks out a mayday call. You should actually do a mayday call as well. I don't think he did. I think he just hit the DSC button. but you should do a mayday call as well if you're able, to let Coast Guard know what the hell's going on, because these things do get pushed by accident. It's also worth remembering that that button still works if your radio is turned off. If you have a VHF radio that is switched off because you can't be asked monitoring channel 16, which is illegal, by the way, you should be monitoring channel 16, but you don't want to be listening to people doing radio checks all day long, so you turn your radio off. If you go overboard, you haven't got to turn your radio on, push the button. As long as the battery's in it, it'll still work. Do get one of those. If you can't get one of those, get a personal locator beacon. Again, if anything, that's an even better option because it gives you global coverage. It isn't reliant on VHF coverage. It's satellite coverage and it's global. So, don't launch without safety gear. People die. We had someone die in the Firth of Thames off of a fishing jet ski, just a few weeks ago here in Auckland. Kayakers, sea kayakers die regularly. And I will guarantee you that every one of them who dies because they are missing some essential piece of safety kit that could have saved their lives. So if you don't have it, don't launch, is my sincere advice. But I guess you're all big boys and girls and you can make your own choices. But yeah, safety kit,